What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Game Show presented by Front Yard Fantasy. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my rocking out co-host, Josh. What's up, Josh?
Oh, rocking out on this Monday. I'm feeling good. Feeling pretty good. It's Monday, you know. I'm always a little low energy on Mondays, but I'm feeling pretty good.
Guys, and also always joining us, but in spirit today, is John Luke Garofalo. He's here in spirit. He's not feeling well, so he had to miss today's show. But get better, JL. Hope you're watching. Hope you're doing okay. And you're not allowed to take your nap until this show's done.
For anyone that's confused there, JL's still alive, all right? He's not dead. He's not like a spirit flying around. He's here, though. He's here. We care about him.
He is here. Guys, also joining us today, we've got a special guest today. We've got Wyatt here with us. For those that do not know Wyatt, you can find him on Twitter at WyattB_FF. He is the creator of JWB Fantasy Football and a contributor over at DLF. Wyatt, thank you so much for joining us for a mock draft today.
Of course. I'm excited to be here. This was kind of a long time coming. I'm finally able to make it work on a holiday. I'm free now. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Let's do it. Guys, we got some people in the chat ready for today's show. We've got Scott Cobe in the draft saying, is the mock draft full? Now it is. It is full. I'm not sure if you got in there, but we are all full up. We've got Dame in the chat. What's up, Dame? Welcome in. Glad to have you. Twin, what's up? Thanks for joining us right there. And Scott says he took one, so we got one of those spots. Dame said, weird, got a Chargers ad today. Hey, they're figuring us out a little bit.
Ad?
Instead of it's better than baked beans is what they were getting ads for before, or mortgage insurance. I'm down with Chargers ads as long as they're not
related.
So are they like trying to sell tickets or just like the team, just like
just
come
the
be a
fandom?
fan?
Just please be a fan of the Chargers.
Okay,
we're begging you.
Cool.
Wyatt, where does your fandom lie?
I am a Browns fan from Ohio. Browns fan, born and raised. Honestly, boo us. It's fine.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a Browns fan as well, and I probably should have booed us whenever you said that. I'm with you. But I'm usually alone as a Browns fan on here. C-Bro, what's up? Welcome in. Glad to have you here. And Kev, bird up to you. Glad to have you in here. We got Ryan in the chat saying thankful for no G-Min J. We're all thankful there's no G-Min J on the show today, Ryan. Thanks for reminding us. And also C-Bro saying happy Memorial Day, all remembering those who sacrificed everything. Absolutely, yes. Guys. There's a reason a lot of you are home celebrating today. Make sure you're keeping that in your thoughts as you're spending time with your family and your loved ones. Scott said, guys, finally got my fishbowl entry thanks to Front Yard Fantasy. It's Scott Fish. You know what? All that credit goes to the other Scott, to the Scott Fish right there. Also, C-Bro in here saying the beard game is so strong. Yeah.
I don't think they were talking to you, Simon.
We don't keep a beard like a high score list on the show, Wyatt, but you'd be a strong contender for I'm not going to sit here and say for sure unanimous number one, but he might be the top beard that's ever been on here. What's up, Swamp? Welcome in. Glad to have you here, Swamp. Also, Swamp said hella excited about Obi-Wan. Yeah, that was
good.
The first two episodes were really great.
His beard, it's so good.
Also, Swamp said, finish Stranger Things. Big sad they made it a two-parter. I watched the first episode of Stranger Things, and I did not watch the second episode. It was too much for the mood I was in. Make sure you're ready. It starts off with a bang. It is aggressive. If you are watching it. Mr. Scampers, what's up? Welcome in. Glad to have you here. Guys, it is time for us to mock draft. We're going to go ahead and get started with this. Like we mentioned at the beginning, we brought Wyatt here to do a mock draft today. This is going to be a redraft Superflex mock. So for those of you who don't know what Superflex is, that just means you can start up to 2 quarterbacks. So there's going to be an additional flex spot in this roster that instead of just a running back, wide receiver, or tight end, you can also put a quarterback in there. The rest of the roster settings are pretty standard. A quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receiver, a tight end, 1 flex, and then 1 super flex, 3 bench for today's draft, just to keep it under time on the stream. Wyatt, you are drafting from the 7 spot, I believe. I'm drafting from the 10 spot. Josh is going to be commenting on our draft for today, asking us some questions, guiding us through this.
Just be talking, Don't screw it up.
Guys ready?
Don't screw it up. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's get this draft
I'm
started. Swamp Noah at the 101. Let's see who he picks. I am interested. It's a super flex league, like we said, but he is going Jonathan Taylor. He is avoiding the quarterback position, but we see Josh Allen come off the board right after him. two pretty normal starts, I would say, to a Superflex league. Wyatt, let me ask you, you're 101 in this format. Super draft. I know Superflex redraft we don't see all the time, but who do you think you'd lean towards here?
Josh Allen for me. And I think that's mostly because I tend to lean towards the 0 RB strategies. So I'm perfectly fine with putting together my running back position later.
God, Wyatt, it just keeps getting better and better. You like the Browns. You tend to lean towards 0 RB strategies. We're just, man,
it's meant to happen.
There's something about you Browns fans. Yeah, you Browns fans just don't know how to play, you know? Like,
I'm getting flustered.
I love you guys.
We do need some help.
Or there was so much misery bestowed on us from regular football that we've discovered the secrets to success in fantasy football to make up for the real football misery. That's the route I'm going to go, Josh.
Like I said before, I prefer my hero RB strategy. I don't like just go completely 0 RB. I like to have one guy that I know like is going to be confident going into the season, but I completely understand. You can still do very well using that 0 RB strategy because running backs are getting injured all the time.
Yeah.
Jail said Simon and Wyatt are the same person. Jail, yeah, except one of us has a much more glorious beard.
I was like, that's
and you have much more glorious hair on the top of your head. So,
you know what? This is I keep saying the long hair back here is not indicative of what's up here, and this is my last hair. I'm growing it out one more time, and then I'm shaving it off for the rest of my life.
You still got it better than me, so there's that.
Man, what's sad is we've probably been growing our beard for the same amount of time.
Wyatt, you're on the clock here, and we just had a quarterback run of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. So that's gonna go. You're gonna go to the running back, Christian McCaffrey. How you feeling?
I know. Just after talking about like loving 0 RB, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, the guy just loves to score 30 points a game. I don't know. I don't understand like the fading that's happening. Injuries happen. The good thing for McCaffrey is none of them have been like especially major injuries. They've been more just like freak injuries, I would say, if anything. I have no problem taking Christian McCaffrey here. Happy to do it.
And Ryan said Wyatt stole my pick. And Tyler, FF Tyler O over there at JWB with you wants to know why CMC over Eckler.
That is because on Old Trophy Smack, we had a debate about CMC versus Eckler in Dynasty, and I was on the Eckler side of that argument when we did it. So there's a little bit of ribbon here going on.
But this is redraft, right? So that may completely change it right there. You don't need CMC to be good for 3 years, just for one.
That's true. Yeah, that is exactly true.
I will say CMC is a little bit younger than Austin Eckler, but he's shown a little bit less injury concern throughout his career, so I guess he can make an argument both ways. But
basically, when we had that conversation, it was that I think Eckler's ability is going to last a little bit longer than CMC's with the pounding he's taken.
And let's just talk about the situation they're both in. I mean, when we compare them, I think everyone's going to agree Austin Eckler's in a slightly better spot compared to Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, Justin Herbert as QB a little bit better than what's going on in Carolina.
But you did mention it. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, even with his crappy situation, I mean, he's been in a pretty bad situation his entire career, but he still scores close to 30 points a game. Yeah. So when he's healthy, as long as he's healthy, right?
Yeah.
He's got a chance. I would say if you told me Christian McCaffrey's healthy the entire season, he's the number one running back in fantasy football, right?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Which is why I don't understand the thing. Because if you want to win championships, you want to draft Christian McCaffrey.
I currently have him as my 3, but he's in the same tier as Austin Eckler. Like I have a top 4 that are one tier. It's Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, and Joe Mixon. That's my top tier of running backs. Those are the 4 where I'm fully comfortable with their workload and their talent. They're going to catch the ball as well. That I'm putting them there. There's some discomfort with the next batch, but like honestly, if you want to take CMC first, even over JT, I've got no issue with it. He's my 3, but I think they're comparable.
I know you're on the clock, Simon, but I would like to know like how you feel about Derrick Henry and why you don't put him in that conversation. I'm just wondering because of that.
Derrick Henry's number 5. He's the 5th running back on that list, and it's exactly that. It's just the pass catching that separates it. That's it.
But that doesn't mean with those running backs, everyone loves Jonathan Taylor, and then everyone else has a question mark after that, basically. Yeah. So you have to pick and choose,
Let's see. Yeah. We're gonna do it. Josh, I'm gonna take a guy that you moved into that top tier, and I tend to agree with you. He
belongs there. I love your draft so far, Simon. You got 2 of my top 3 wide receivers.
Everyone's
Stephon
forcing
Diggs,
me into drafting running backs.
Hey, but Wyatt, I think that's a common fallacy that people who like zero
Eckler.
RB
Why
are
not both?
There you go. Are unwilling to draft otherwise, right? Just because maybe you prefer a zero RB strategy, it's still value based when it comes down to it. If the value's there with these guys, you're going to take them.
Yeah. So far in the first 2 rounds, Wyatt, you have 2 running backs, and Simon, you have 2 wide receivers. So I'm very interested to see where you guys go with this. It's redraft, so we still have a lot of options. It is a super flex league. Keep that in mind, everyone. But a lot of quarterbacks already off the board, as we can see. Man, Austin Eckler and Derrick Henry, I think they're just fantastic values right there. It's just making me realize if you do a Superflex redraft league, the middle of the round, the middle of the first, middle of the second is the place to be, in my opinion.
Oh, my screen's not a touch screen. I just tried to touch screen my computer. Scott said, where's the ideal spot you want to draft from in a Superflex? We were talking about this a little bit, I think before the show started, but I don't know this year for redraft. I haven't identified my favorite spot to draft from yet. That's why we're doing a lot of these mocks right now. The meta is also going to change as we get close to the NFL season. Like we talk about, like you hear about metas in different games, right? It's the same in fantasy football drafts. Where people are being drafted, where positions are falling is going to shift a little bit by the time the season starts. But right now, if I have to pick, I think Wyatt, you said it earlier, just give me one of the top spots. I'll default to that until something else presents itself, because then I'm getting one of the top guys. Wyatt, what about you? Anything that stands out to you as a spot you like to draft?
Well, in Superflex specifically, Josh and I were talking about this beforehand, that we actually tend to like to be in the middle so that we don't get caught in various runs that happen and you don't feel forced to take a quarterback, because when you're on the end of a draft, you might feel like the quarterbacks that are available aren't quite worth it. You don't take one, and then 6 or 7 QBs go in between your next pick. And then you're having to decide, do I reach again or do I wait again? And the same thing can happen. But when you're in the middle, you can find the sweet spot.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, Wyatt. I honestly, take away Superflex. I just prefer the middle of drafts, just period, when it comes down to it. And when I say middle, I just mean I just don't love the end picks. I don't like having the first or second pick. I don't like having the 11th or 12th pick. Give me a little bit of separation where those guys where I can kind of read the guys that have already made selections in between my picks and kind of let that help me make my decision as well, right? We saw the first 2 tight ends go off the board with Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews right there.
I considered Kelce with my Diggs pick, like all the way back there at 203. I considered going Kelce, but changed my mind. I just love locking up that tight end. I think Kelce was probably my most drafted player in redraft last year, and I was taking him at the back of the first, beginning of the second, all day long. And it wasn't the best move last year. Know what I mean? He wasn't an entire separator of the position, but he was still a good pick, and I'll do it again this year.
I'm just going to lean into this. I'm a firm believer in best player available. I'm taking DeAndre Swift.
Okay, and you know what? I don't hate it, because so far you have my number 3, my number 2, and my number 6 running backs in redraft.
I am a firm believer in best player available. I will not reach on position when I'm in a draft. I will always just take what, to me, based on my rankings, the best player that's available. Almost to the extreme, until it's absolutely necessary to take another position. So here I am, 3 running backs.
Let me ask you this, Wyatt. There's another running back. He's the highest on your board in the 4th round. Are you doing it again? Is that where it's like to the limit? That's a little bit too much. You just have to pivot then.
Because this is one flex, I might have to go away from running back, even if they're the top on my board. But and that might only even be because it's mock draft. But in a regular league, I might be into it depending on how big of a value I think they are, because it's just gonna be something where maybe I can make a move happen later on.
Man.
Yeah, okay. So DeAndre Swift went as the 12th running back, and he's actually ranked as my 12th highest running back myself. But Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler, there's my number 2 and 3 personally for redraft. So I love the running backs you've gotten so far. And Simon, he's doing the same thing, but he's doing it at the wide receiver position.
This is what I live for, the team I'm drafting right now. I hope I don't ruin it, nice. But that is my number 3, number 4, and number 6 redraft wide receiver that I've gotten in the first 3 rounds. Like, this is everything you can hope for.
Simon, I'll do you one better. It's my number 2, my number 3, and my number 7.
There you go.
it's about the same, but like, I think both of you guys have really, so it's a super flex league. So, you know, a lot of people are gonna be like, you gotta go quarterback. You gotta get good quarterbacks to end up winning a super flex league. But this is a redraft. We're not playing for 10 years into the future. That's where a lot of the value from the quarterbacks comes in anyway. So I love what you guys are doing, and I'm excited to see how both of your teams pan out.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just loaded at your skill positions, like I'll happily just go into the season with like, I don't know, Matt Ryan and Jameis Winston, who will just like provide me some QB2 numbers.
Those are the exact names in my head. I was thinking like, yeah, I'll just.
Is this love at first sight, Simon?
Guys, get a room. Like seriously. Like.
Okay, see you, Josh. We'll finish it out. You're good.
I mean, as long as you keep drafting, I'll keep talking.
Jay Wall
he's a big
Swift
fan.
snipe. Yeah, he was upset you grabbed Swift from him right there.
Love it.
And Swamp also said at this point, Connor is just a favorite pick for Swamp. I think Connor's a great pick. I especially in the third round, I think that's a great pick.
Where do you have him ranked, Simon, James Conner, in your running back rankings? He's number 11 for me right now.
So he's a little bit lower for me. I have him at 17. I did move him down a little bit with the addition of Williams to that offense, but only 2 spots. He was 15. I moved Leonard Fournette and David Montgomery ahead of him. But still, he's got 15 touchdown upside, right? Like he's 17 for me, but his floor is a little bit higher. And that touchdown ceiling he's shown us can be higher. So even though I have him ranked at 17, there's probably a couple people, depending on my team build, that I'm drafting him ahead of. But when I look at the names ahead of him, though, the only ones that were questionable for me were Fournette and Montgomery. But names like Jacobs, Chubb, Elliott, Kamara, I just have trouble moving Connor ahead of those guys. I know there's some question marks, but Josh Jacobs or James Conner? I guess that's a question. Wyatt, would you go Jacobs or Connor?
Connor very easily for me, actually.
Has Josh Jacobs been drafted? No.
Oops, maybe I shouldn't have said it out loud.
Well, he's not making it back to you, Simon. I mean, like, there's just no way.
Also, he shouldn't have been drafted by now, so everything's fine.
Josh Jacobs, personally, for me, is my number 15 running back, actually. So I have him pretty high, but, like, you know, I think I have all the guys that have been drafted over him. Yeah, I do. Actually, yeah, there's one. I'm a little bit lower. Yeah.
Also, we got the smoke show in the chat saying Pitts in the 4th. You fools! What a value. I think it's pretty good value for Pitts. I like Pitts in the 4th. I don't think it's like a punch you in the stomach. Everyone's going to be eating their words kind of value, but I think that's good value. But look at where the other tight ends went, right? Pitts or Kelsey, like less than a round before. I'll take Kelsey less than a round before, is where I stand on it.
It's the quarterback position for me with the Falcons. I think Pitts, he's already he's a top 3 talented tight end in the NFL, I would say. It just, who's throwing him the ball? Marcus Mariota? It concerns me a little bit. The whole offense concerns me a little bit. So I like Pitts. I love him in Dynasty. I don't know. It's probably right where he belongs, I guess.
You can hang your hat on Delaney Walker being a top tight end while Mariota was
there we go. Good
in
call.
Tennessee. So that's the hope. I
mean,
Pitts has all
year 12 breakout for Delaney Walker.
Yeah, it was really late for him too. Yeah.
And I think we all agree that Pitts is more talented than Walker. You know, Walker, like I said, had more experience, had some years in the NFL. That he was an explosive guy himself. So I think you could kind of relate Pitts to Walker in a lot of ways. You know,
how long do we think Marcus Mariota is going to be the starter?
I feel like Mariota is a competent enough of a QB that he's going to be the starting QB for most of the season until they're, I don't know, like 4-10, and they decide, all right, let's give the kid a look and let Ritter get in. I wasn't really a fan of Ritter, so maybe I'm a little bit biased that way. I just think that he makes some terrible decisions and has some really bad accuracy problems.
Really bad accuracy problems. Yeah. But like, Wyatt, to your point, Ritter had some disgusting throws in college, like disgustingly bad throws. He's athletic. He's a great leader. He's uber confident. I mean,
he's got all the tools that you'd want. Yeah, it's just there's some really bad stuff.
Accuracy is like a pretty big tool you want your quarterback to have.
Yeah.
And
other than that,
we've seen it go. We've seen it go both ways, right? We've seen the Josh Allen come in without the accuracy and turn it around, but we've also seen like the Paxton Lynch, who has all the tools. He just needs to put it together, and doesn't happen. Whatever happened with Christian Hackenberg? That's another name that I always think of when I think of these guys. Like, he's got the tools if he can just put it together. Nah.
Yeah.
Also, Smoke was saying Pitts was 1,000-yard receivers. I love Pitts. He is.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
I've got him ahead of Waller in my rankings this year, and I'm a Waller lover. But he's after those top three for me. It goes Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, and then Pitts is number 4 for me. But he's in that top tier. He's up there with those guys. He only had 1 touchdown last season as well on top of those 1,000 yards. So I guess it could go down to 0, but that seems highly unlikely.
He's going to have more touchdowns this year. If he, even with a downgraded quarterback, that I think a lot of people will agree that, Marcus Mariota is a slight downgrade to Matt Ryan. I think there'll be more touchdowns. Matt Ryan's always had a touchdown throwing problem. And hopefully Marcus Mariota just trusts Pitts and throws it up to him. Ooh, Deshaun Watson there in the 5th round. How do you feel about that?
I guess this is serendipity. The Browns fan comes on and drafts Deshaun Watson. He's probably going to miss like 6 to 8 games, but when he's playing, he's going to be a top 5 QB. I mean, he always has been. So I'm cool with it here.
I'm with you. He'll be a top for sure, a top 7 quarterback when he's playing.
Yeah.
Top 5. He has the number 1 quarterback kind of upside.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a problem with that pick. You needed quarterbacks. I love how the rest of your team is looking. Cross your fingers that he doesn't miss many games, and if he plays the whole season by some crazy miracle, then you freaking got the steal of steals.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's still like this smallest of chances that everything gets pushed back until the next season, in which case he's a huge value for this year. But it does seem like if nothing happens with the courts, the NFL is probably going to have to just step in and give him some sort of suspension, which is warranted.
I agree. Hey, Simon, you picked J.K. Dobbins, and I see Cam Akers went the pick before J.K. Dobbins. I'll tell you, one of the biggest problems I've had all offseason, both for Dynasty and Redraft, is who do I like more, Cam Akers or J.K. Dobbins? I'm finding myself on the J.K. Dobbins side. Maybe I'm a little biased. I'm a Ravens fan, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and I'm a Browns fan, so if anything, I should be biased the other way. I currently have J.K. Dobbins at RB19 and Cam Akers at RB25.
Okay.
I'm a little bit concerned about what we saw from Cam Akers at the end of last season. That's not a bad thing. It's just there's other competent backs in that offense, and this is going to be I think his value is going to come from the production of this offense. I'm not as bought into him as a talent as I am bought into J.K. Dobbins as a talent. That being said, they're both borderline RB2s, right? Like one's a back-end RB2, one's just flirting on that RB2 category. So while they're like 6 spots apart, they're really not that far apart in my mind. I just do prefer J.K. Dobbins in this rush versus Baltimore offense.
What about you, Wyatt? And Simon, you're on the clock.
Yep. I already had my pick picked out. I just had to click it.
It's definitely Dobbins for me. I'm definitely not a Cam Akers guy. The injury, the little bit inefficiency when he came back, though I think a lot of that had to deal with the defenses he was playing and them focusing on him. Darrell Henderson is still going to have a role. The Rams started passing more at the goal line with Matthew Stafford in the building last year. It's just like all these things together. And I feel like people forget just how good J.K. Dobbins was as a rookie. It was insane. 6 yards a carry and, like
he had the highest yards per carry, I believe. Right next to Nick Chubb. I can't remember. One of those was one.
I believe the top 3 yards per carry from that season were all in the AFC North. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, and I think Kareem Hunt was 3rd. I think it was 3 people, if I remember correctly. I know J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb were 1 and 2, though, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. There might have been like one other person in there that had like 3 carries over the course of the season. I don't remember, but with a certain amount of carries, it definitely was. I was just bringing this up to look at the available quarterbacks just to kind of see. But yeah, Wyatt, I like the quarterback value you got. Obviously, we already talked about the concerns with Deshaun Watson, but Derek Carr right there, let's go, right?
This is why I'm happy doing best player available. I just happened to walk into my QBs 13 and 14 for redraft right there in the 5th and 6th round in Superflex. I'm pumped about it. Love it.
Also, I wanted to comment on what Brady has said. Best looking RB dead zone I've seen in 5 years of redraft. And I agree with you. That is something I've noticed in these mock drafts is this running back dead zone is full of values this year. Guys that I think have top 12 upside and definitely some solid RB2s in this range. It doesn't feel like as much of a dead zone. Do you guys think that has to do with like more uncertainty, or do you think maybe more backs are becoming fantasy viable with the way the NFL is changing. Like there just are more running backs that you can plug in. Like a Tony Pollard is now a weekly play, even though there's Ezekiel Elliott. AJ Dillon is a weekly play. You can start Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. Like it's not so much just the one guy show.
I think running backs just come in cycles like that. Like we had the 2017 draft where there was just this epic class, and those guys have been at the top for a while. And we're seeing this dynasty now where there's like the changing of guards, but I feel like it just happens like that. We're just getting another good wave of young running backs coming into the NFL now.
Absolutely,
I agree.
The what else is interesting is watching the ebb and flows between wide receiver and running back throughout different years. Like you'll see like an overcorrection towards wide receivers. I feel like we see it in rookie drafts more maybe. And I think we're about to see an overcorrection towards wide receivers again because we've had so many great wide receiver classes recently. It feels like one or two running backs and then just boom, 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 hit after hit after hit at wide receiver. And one of these years it's going to come crashing down. We're going to have another Laquan Treadwell type class. N'Keal Harry, Laquan Treadwell are going to be the headliners.
Not this year. Don't put that bad juju on this year's class.
I'm way too invested in these wide receivers.
I love Drake London more than I love myself. So he has to pan out. Now that being said, that's not a high barrier to cross.
Yeah, Simon, your love for Drake London. You know, I like Treylon Burks and Jamison Williams. You know, like Drake London was the first wide receiver drafted. Ton more upside with Drake London, maybe just because of who he is. Who's your favorite wide receiver, Wyatt, in this class?
Mine is Garrett Wilson.
Look at that! That's awesome. I think he's the safest.
Yeah, I think he is the safest while also having just as high of a ceiling as the other wide receivers in that tier. So it's a pretty easy Garrett Wilson for me.
I just see Mike Evans comp and I love Mike Evans comp.
That's
like I see Drake London and I see enough Mike Evans in his game that I'm like, this is my guy. That's just like my favorite kind of receiver in the NFL. Mike Evans is probably my number one favorite NFL receiver. And so when I see a young guy that doesn't just comp well to him, but like actually when you watch him play, looks like Mike Evans on the football field,
agile for his size like Mike Evans.
God, it's nuts.
Yeah.
So hopefully that happens.
And like just seriously elite contested catch ability, just like Mike. It
really,
it's very similar.
And man, did that get blown out of proportion? People just complaining about, he has so many contested catches. Well, number one, it's not like the QB play he had was that great. But number two, the dude is when you are that good at dominating at the catch point, you don't care that he has a bunch of contested catches because he wins them all.
Well, I think the base of the issue is his separation, right? And I agree with your points there. The quarterback was bad. It's just his ability to separate from the quarterback is my biggest question mark as well for him. Still love. I think
it was Ray JQ said that with wide receivers, it's important to remember that they can have separation at different points of the route. Whether there's wide receivers who separate well at the line, there's separators during the route, there's separators at the catch point. Like Jamar Chase is someone who separates at the catch point. He has that that extra gear he hits when the ball's in the air. I think Drake London is more of a separate at the catch point in the way that he makes sure to get, use his wingspan to always catch it where the DB can't.
And I'm trying to make my pick right here.
So, also, can we talk about Elijah Moore falling this far? Am I the only guy?
I was just about to do it. I was just going to do it. You said Garrett Wilson was your favorite rookie wide receiver, but at the same time, you end up taking Elijah Moore here. So I'm interested just to see your perspective on what you think the Jets offense is going to look like this year.
I mean, I think we're all putting a lot of faith in Zach Wilson getting it figured out. He's got all the tools, but again, he's one of those guys he makes some really poor decisions. But I love that the Jets are doing exactly what you're supposed to do when you feel like that, and just give as many weapons as you can to him, and just bump up the offense. Who cares about the defense? They're not a good enough team to win to begin with, so let's make sure that the rookie QB has everything, now second year QB has everything he needs, and really empower him. And Elijah Moore was really good last year before getting hurt for the year.
Yep,
I'm still in on Elijah Moore, even with Garrett Wilson there.
He proved a lot. A lot of people thought he was going to be just this solely slot receiver, but he proved he was much more than just that, right? He's a great NFL wide receiver, and I think this is good value on him. He's coming in the second year. Garrett Wilson still has to learn a little bit. They can both be very involved, right? They're going to be the top two weapons. receiving wise.
See, Dave loves London Bell and Justin Ross, and I'm excited for the upside of Justin Ross, but I'm having trouble buying. And I'm a Clemson guy. I love him. I've seen what he can do on the field, but it's hard to ignore the undrafted, right? Like it takes a special player to find that, and it's a lot of potential mouths in that offense that he found himself in.
I don't know if the upside.
Dave is a big fan of
there.
wide receivers with slow 40 times. I love them all, by the way, at cost and everything.
That's true.
I have to like David Bell, but yeah.
Oh, Browns.
Just
I
had
was
to
like,
throw
why?
that one too.
Okay. No, I actually think David Bell is a really good football player. And like if he ran a 4.5 40, he probably would have. I mean, I could have seen him sneak into the back of the second round instead, you know?
Yeah. He has everything but a good 40 time.
Exactly, you know. So I like it a lot. I like it a lot there. AJ Dillon, Simon, Allen Robinson. I heard you make a sigh like right as you were drafting him.
That's a ranking that every day, if you would have asked me what my ranking of Allen Robinson was since this day last week, so last Monday, it would have been at least one spot higher each day. I keep bumping him up. I keep moving him up a little bit more and a little bit more. I'm buying into the talent plus offense that he's going to be in. I've gone back and looked at when Robert Woods was healthy and was on the field, what OBJ's doing out there, what Van Jefferson did when given the opportunity. I'm just getting more and more excited every day for what the wide receiver 2 being that talented in this Rams offense means. And I think it's like solid wide receiver 2 numbers is what I'm expecting from Allen Robinson. He was this time last week, he was wide receiver 28 for me. And where did he find his way up to now? He found his way up to wide receiver 19.
19, wow.
Wide receiver 19 is where I've got Allen Robinson at this point.
Where I got him.
I'm a little bit uncomfortable with where I have him ranked as the wide receiver 2 on that offense is what that noise was. But the noise was me drafting based on the rankings that I put thought and time into instead of just grabbing Juju. Like I've got Juju ranked after him. I've got other names ranked after him. But he was the highest ranked player left on the board for me at that point.
For me, I have Allen Robinson ranked at 29 personally.
I have 29 as well.
Oh, hey, what's up? good company.
I was
good
just
company.
checking.
That's okay. You can have something in common with Josh. He was probably feeling a little left out with how much we had in common.
You guys call some bond, and
I do think there's a pretty high ceiling for him there. I do just I wonder the wide receivers that they've had in that wide receiver 2 position have been so different from Robert Woods to OBJ to Allen Robinson. Their games are all very different. I'm interested to see how Allen Robinson works in the offense just in general.
Yeah.
And there has to be I think he was dogging it last year, if I'm being honest, with the Bears. He didn't want to be on the franchise tag. He wanted out. I think if we're just being honest, he probably wasn't playing 100% all the time. But there has to be at least a little bit in your mind saying, is he falling off? Is it happening? I don't know.
Oh,
because it was so bad.
That's where that doubt comes from, right? It's it's fighting that what I saw. I saw Allen Robinson last year. It was atrocious. It was
not good.
It was terrible. It is me fighting against everything I saw last year to have him ranked there, but I do believe he's still just as talented. I don't think he fell off that hard. There's just no way in my mind, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And we know
now be dishonest, please.
Air out the ball, right? Would you say I'm going to be honest?
Yeah. Now be dishonest, please, Wyatt. Could you tell us something dishonest real quick?
But regardless,
I love Evan Ingram.
There we go.
Oh. So you're not
dishonest.
a big Evan Ingram
Dishonest.
It's really weird. But seriously, Allen Robinson, take let's just say he's not the same player he used to be. Regardless, if he stays as the wide receiver 2 for that offense and he's out there, 80% of plays, Stafford's going to air out the ball. He's going to hit him. He's going to be a productive wide receiver. I find it difficult to see him not be at least a wide receiver 3 for fantasy football. I kind of feel like that's his floor almost.
And that's where this philosophical conversation comes into play when you're ranking, where it's okay, if I think this player's ceiling is actually only a wide receiver 2, how high do you rank that player compared to other players who might have a
29, I guess.
Ceiling? Yeah, right there. You nailed it. That's actually the correct answer.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to think like there's some of these guys that like we have them as wide receiver 3s, but their realistic upside is a wide receiver 1, right? I'm having trouble thinking of a name, but that's a good point. Like, where do you rank them? What I try to do is
Marquise Brown this year.
He could
DeAndre
be.
Hopkins is missing the first 6 weeks. There's no reason why Marquise Brown isn't a wide receiver 1 at least the first 6 weeks, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
Where do you rank that person?
I try to rank like probabilistically where they're most likely to land. And then now something else, and this may bother some people, but I don't always draft just based on my rankings. You know what I mean? Like we talk about this. There are situations where I'll take a lower ranked guy ahead of a higher ranked guy, especially at the wide receiver position. Because wide receivers, there's more consistent wide receivers. There's boomer bust wide receivers. And if I have a pretty safe core, which I feel like I do with like Jefferson, Diggs, and Evans, I might like late in this draft take a shot on some of these guys that are less safe. Like skip some of my late round targets that I think are going to have good value and go for some of these home run hits later in the draft. Maybe some rookies that are in great opportunities. Whereas if I'd started more running back heavy and grabbed some middle tier wide receivers, I probably wouldn't be taking those shots. I'd probably be going more Jamison Crowder-esque at the end here. Some of these safer options that are going to score me points.
And that's where I think like drafting in tiers is important, where you can identify like, I just want someone from here, but like there's safer options and there's high ceiling, low floor options in there that you can kind of pick and choose as you draft your team to try and balance it out.
Scott wants to know what's
go get your player, draft in tiers, just have these groupings. But what is your favorite pizza topping?
I forgot it was
only
my turn.
25 seconds.
Can I like cop out of this?
Can you pause it real quick and then jump in?
If I figure out how to pause it, I
got it.
Will. Pause draft.
Sorry guys, we get to cheat because we're on stream. Okay, there we go. What? It still only usually when I do that, it gives me a whole other 16 seconds. It's only got 10 seconds left.
Okay. Just make your draft,
Yep. I'm making my pick. I'm making my pick. We are good.
Oh no.
As soon as
but hey, Wyatt, we had a pretty heated debate about Rashad Bateman the other week. How do you feel about Rashad Bateman? Yeah, I know you drafted him here in the 8th round. I would say that's pretty good value in my opinion. What do you kind of think in projecting for him?
I'm happy with where I got him. I think that after the Marquise Brown trade, there might have been like a slight overcorrection in hype for Marquise Brown. I think he went a little bit too high, but I'm still pretty excited for him. I really liked him as a prospect, and in that offense, even though it might go back to be low passing volume, which I think it will, I would expect him to still get between like a 22% to 25% target share as the number 1 receiver next to Mark Andrews. Andrews is the true number 1 receiver on the offense, but there's no reason Bateman couldn't be doing something similar to what Marquise Brown was already doing in that offense. And I would say that his ceiling is higher than Marquise Brown because he's a more complete wide receiver. That's
what I've been saying. I think he profiles as a higher target option. Let's put it that way. I think he can do more than Marquise Brown. He's still super fast, maybe not quite as fast as Brown. Not many people are, but Bateman's really freaking fast. I think he ran a 4.39 40-yard dash. I mean, don't quote me on that. I think that's what it was. I don't remember exactly. But when it comes down to it, Bateman, he's going to get, less targets than Mark Andrews, I'm sure. But you got to remember Lamar Jackson, when he went out for the final 5 games of the season, and Huntley came in, he was uber targeting Mark Andrews and not really targeting the wide receiver position very much. So Marquise Brown went down and Mark Andrews went even up. I think that's going to equalize a little bit where Rashad Bateman could get close to as many targets as Mark Andrews. I truly believe that. And if that's the case, then you got a steal here.
So entirely random comparison, like completely random player comparison. We haven't discussed this in depth or thought about it a lot on stream at all. Hasn't been a point of contention. Who do you prefer for redraft next year, Rashad Bateman or Darnell Mooney?
I'm pulling up my ranks to confirm, but I was pretty sure. Yeah, it's Mooney by 4 spots for me.
Okay. So you're pretty close on him. That's fairly close.
They're in the same tier, but I am a fan of Mooney because I do think he has like 160 target upside in that offense. I mean, he basically already showed it last year. And with Fields having the full offseason as the guy, I think that actually quote came out today that he was happy that he doesn't have to go into the season worrying about if he's the guy or not because they didn't make him the guy right off the bat like they should have. Yeah. So it sucks that they didn't do much for Justin Fields in this offseason, But that also means that Darnell Mooney is basically on an island as the only guy, along with Cole Kmet to a certain degree. But I expect a lot out of Mooney this year.
What about
I'm
Vilas
with you,
Jones,
Wyatt.
guys?
I'm with you. Sorry, Vilas.
I just did a Vilas Jones video today.
I feel bad. I don't want to say negative because I feel like everything that needs to be said about him has been said. People are just piling on the guy. He just like continuously seems to be
6
the
years
butt.
in college.
He continues to be the butt of jokes, and you know what? He made it to the freaking NFL. He's probably a good wide receiver, but for fantasy,
He's a returner. He's a return specialist.
I'm out.
Yeah, I think that's something everyone has to realize when those certain picks, like Tyquan Thornton too. It's like, well, those players are also special teams players. They add something to the return game, which NFL front offices and coaches value
a lot more than Twitter guys and fantasy football, analysts, right?
I still think they're bad picks, but at least like that's a little bit of the reasoning of why those picks happen.
So with Darnell Mooney, I agree. Like, he's going to get 140 targets again this season at least. Like that's what we're looking at. I would caution you, just like when you look back at the games that Justin Fields started, he did a lot better with Andy Dalton than Justin Fields. I'll just put it that way. Darnell Mooney, he did a lot better. The games with Justin Fields weren't nearly as good. So like, I'm just a little concerned there. Like, what are the quality of targets looking like? I know he's going to get more targets than Rashad Bateman, and I hate the argument between these two that I forced myself in because they're literally back to back in my overall rankings. Like, it's not fair. It's like I shouldn't be arguing that hard.
Honestly, I'm the only one who's probably really arguing this like super hard because I think I'm the only one with a big difference. I've got Mooney at 10 and Bateman currently at 31.
You have Mooney at 10? Did you say?
Yeah,
I heard that right?
I've got Mooney at 10.
All right, well. We're
I have him at 22. I have Bateman at 21 myself. That's just me.
Mooney at 10 is a very fuego take.
Honestly, my rankings are pretty hot take free if you go through them. Like, there's a process. I went through and I ran through. But there is one glaring fuego take in there, and it is Darnell Mooney at 10.
So you're ranking Mooney a bit above Tyreek Hill, I'm assuming?
No, Tyreek Hill's at 8.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill is at 8.
Obviously Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen's at 12. And that's with an expected growth in the role for Mike Williams because I've got
Davante Adams.
I've got Davante Adams at 7.
I'm just wondering. Okay.
At 7. He's ahead of him.
I'm just trying to hash it out.
I'll tell you the 9 receivers ahead of him. Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel. And then Josh, after those 9, this is when I texted you and I said, receivers get messy fast. All of the receivers that I have ranked from 10 all the way through like 25, I could see an argument for making them number 10. Okay, like my number 25 wide receiver is Deontay Johnson. And if someone had him at 10, I wouldn't bat a freaking eye. Know what I mean? A.J. Brown, you want to put him up there? Fine. Amari Cooper, you want to say he's going to be the guy on the Browns? Fine. Jalen Waddle, you think Miami's going to be able to support him or he's going to be the more receptive receiver to the type of quarterback that Tua is? Fine. Like it's a big mess. So I know it sounds crazy that I've got Mooney at 10, but really I just think that tier that starts at 10 is a really big tier. And Mooney's one of the guys I'm most comfortable with out of that bunch. Is really where it stands. I just think there's a big grouping of wide receivers that are all similarly valued. Like DJ Moore, like he's in that tier as well. Mike Williams, Allen
I was
Robinson.
actually about to bring him up. He's like I want to say the anti-Mooney, but he's like the safe Mooney, I guess. Like he's just like uber safe. Like you know exactly what you're getting with DJ Moore, like 1,000 yards, like 80 catches and 4 touchdowns. Exactly 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
probably more.
If those ever go up,
Mr. Skinner says Simon picks one player a year to roll a D20 for their ranking. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was Mooney this year. That's where I went. Jay Wilson, Simon's rankings are a bit odd. My rankings are pretty normal. They're not too wild. There's just a couple players in there.
Yeah, I think it was summed up with you like to pick a couple players every year that you go balls to the wall with, right?
you got to make your calls, right? Got to make your stand. If I didn't truly believe Mooney had wide receiver 1 upside, I wouldn't put him up there.
I respect it. I think I think you're crazy, but I respect it.
That's okay. Are there any? I guess are there any?
This made me laugh. It took me a second. DJ Moore is earthy, not Mooney. Earthy.
Okay. Yeah. That one hurts. Mr.
It was
leave the dad jokes to Craig. Let's see. Where do I want to go here?
So Cole Kmet, you just brought him up earlier. You said that's what you're looking for in your tight ends, to be one of the top 2 pass catchers on the team. Am I right, Wyatt?
I am very excited for Cole. He's my tight end 9, so this is like huge for me here. No touchdowns last year, but even if he just had average touchdown percentage for tight ends, just average middle of the squad, middle of the league, he would have had about 5 touchdowns, and that's the difference between where he finished and about a tight end 1. So I think he's a better than average tight end in the NFL. And like you said, top 2 target in the offense. That's all we want. We just want tight ends who get a bunch of targets. I think he has a realistic chance of hitting 100 targets. So yeah, give me Cole Kmet.
He's my tight end 10, Wyatt. So hey, we're vibing on him a little bit. I think we're a little bit higher than most people out there.
Yeah. Who said they had DJ at 25? I missed that.
DJ Moore?
Yeah. I said I had Deontay Johnson at 25, so he's telling me I'm insane.
That's
again.
actually pretty low too, but I have Deontay Johnson down at 20 myself. I'm nervous about the quarterback situation.
It's the quarterback situation. He's going to get all the targets, but it's the quarterback situation.
I've got him at 16.
That being said, I don't hate that. And again, the guy's ahead of him. He's in this giant lump. He's in a big old glob, a giant.
Yeah, it's a very, very big tier.
I
don't think the QB play can get worse. So, like that's the reason to still have him up. I mean, I think the thing that matters though is will the QB just force feed whoever's playing? Between Trubisky and Pickett. Will they force feed
I think
Deontay
Ben
Johnson or not?
Roethlisberger was horrible last year. He was a horrible starting NFL quarterback. He was an accurate short ball thrower where Deontay Johnson just thrives, So I'm very confident his targets are going to go down relatively significantly. So that's
the hope is that his efficiency goes up because he can have more accurate downfield targets with a new QB. Maybe. That kind of outweighs it. But that is the argument right there, right? And that's why he's part of a big tier. He's not as clear, I think, as he was previously.
For example, I have Marquise Brown ranked ahead of him because those first 6 weeks, I think he is going to capitalize. I think he's going to take over it. He's going to look really good. And worst comes to worst, I can trade him maybe after. But people aren't realize that DeAndre Hopkins is coming back. Because DeAndre Hopkins does not play the same role as Marquise Brown. I think Marquise Brown could have a role throughout the entire season. So, and it's just a little bit more of an upside play probably. And maybe something I have to think about a little bit.
Yeah, I do think that whenever we hear all these wide receiver rankings, I'm just gonna Wyatt, you said it's a massive tier, and if you look at my rankings, it's 4 wide receivers in a tier, 4 wide receivers in a tier, and then it literally or 5 wide receivers on a deal, and then it literally goes from 10 to 27. I have that all highlighted one color as a single tier from wide receiver 10 all the way to wide receiver 27 is where that tier goes for me. Yeah. Which is nuts. I've never had a tier that big, and maybe that's just some confusion.
Oh, there's pretty much that big of a tier for me. From Steve Roy, he said, which Packers receiver is the one to grab? Looks like you can get them in the 10th or later. Someone has to catch Rodgers' passes, and I completely agree. For me, I'm taking the shot on Christian Watson. I know the rookies don't usually pan out with Aaron Rodgers. I think Christian Watson's maybe the most talented, has the most upside out of any rookies played with. I know Devontae Adams. Forget about Devontae Adams. I'm going to take Christian Watson as the first receiver drafted for the Packers for me. What do you guys think?
I think Allen Lazard deserves to be the first receiver drafted. I will not be taking him. I will be taking Christian Watson at a later draft cost. But whenever you're just looking at who deserves to be the first wide receiver drafted, Lazard has double-digit touchdown upside this year. Legitimately can hit 10, 12 touchdowns, I think, no problem. Now, that being said, I don't think he's going to be a high yardage guy. I think he'll be below 1,000 yards, even if he hits that 10 to 12 touchdown range. So his upside is limited, but he's going to be that guy in the end zone for Aaron Rodgers. He's 6'5"? This is a massive man. He's just going to be the end zone target. So
I think he is 6'5".
I think he is. He's 6'5", 230.
Yeah, he's a big dude. So I think Lazard deserves to be the first guy drafted. That being said, you know what you're going to get from him. And it's probably going to be inconsistent, touchdown based on the weeks whenever he blows up. And I will take that shot. Where did I got Christian Watson in the 10th round here. I'll take that shot on Watson.
Yeah, I agree with you, Simon, that I think Lazard first, but also Christian Watson possibly at cost. I have in my underdog draft so far, I have a little bit of both. But really what I'm taking from this offseason is I want Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, because I think they're going to rely on them so much.
especially
Oh,
Aaron
shoot.
Jones for me. Just
Well,
we're
and
all
I'm just
done.
realizing I thought Lazard was off the board whenever I made my
No,
Watson pick.
yeah.
So that is on me right there. Lazard must have been buried in the sleeper redraft rankings. I would have taken
Do what he
someone-
says, not what he does.
Yeah. That's my bad.
Lazard and Christian Watson are back to back in my rankings. I have Christian Watson one spot ahead. I'm just taking the shot at the high draft capital rookie coming in, and Lazard, he's had some shots in the past. I know they've had Devontae Adams before, and there's targets available, but Christian Watson for me, it's fine.
Also, Dave saying great call, Wyatt, on the Green Bay running backs.
Though.
Aaron Jones has been shooting up my rankings. He's the number 7 running back for me. I've seen people down on him because of Dylan, but like he's going to be a monster in this offense with all of these receiving options leaving. We talk about trust from Aaron Rodgers. Well, here's a receiver that has Aaron Rodgers' trust. He just happens to be a running back.
I mean, like, would we be surprised if Aaron Jones had like 90 targets at the end of the year? Because I wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah,
and that's a recipe for a top 5 PPR running back, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a top 5 back. If you give a running back of Aaron Jones quality 90 targets.
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I'm a little bit scared about Aaron Jones in Dynasty. If you're going for a shot, if you're going for the title, like, he's a good buy, but he's 27 years old now. Don't love 27-year-old running backs.
He's one of those running backs where either you got like something for him going into this last year, or maybe at the end of the year, or otherwise you're just like letting him die on your roster because his production will always outweigh his dynasty market value at this point.
Absolutely.
I feel like it always has, even at the peak almost. Like he's been one of those guys where he's just been undervalued. Like he's been a top 5 kind of guy, like just a top 5 dynasty running back. But I'm not sure you've ever been able to trade him for the same value that you have maybe a CMC or even like a Javonte Williams right now. Know what I mean? I feel like you'd get more for Williams than you would for Aaron Jones.
Well, he's a 5th round pick in the NFL draft, and I think that sticks in people's minds, especially dynasty managers. They realize that the Packers, they drafted Jamal Williams ahead of Aaron Jones that draft class. So I think that just sticks in people's minds.
That's an important part of like his dynasty value arc, because it's like, how many people do actually believe in him because of that 5th round value? And then by the time people start to believe in it, he's already hitting the age apex, and now he's coming back down.
The proven time is when his value starts dropping.
There's like one specific moment where it was probably like a worthwhile cost, like there was a proper cost.
There was a 14-second sell window for Aaron Jones about halfway through his 4th year. Also, Mr. Skimmer says, would you be surprised if Dylan had 60 targets? He had 37 last year. No, I wouldn't. I think the point of this is like nobody here is calling for 90 targets for Aaron Jones, but saying it is well within the range of outcomes given the passing options or the receiving options that left that team and Aaron Rodgers' ability as a receiving back. And they've shown they trust AJ Dillon on the ground, right? As like that main rushing back. So there's a real world where Aaron Jones kind of maybe takes a step back on that front and becomes more of a receiver this coming season. Sebro wants to know, real quick before we leave, let's each pick a team that we like in this draft. Josh, you've been commentating. Is there a team that sticks out to you?
I'm looking at, I don't know, the mob rule. The mob rule.
The mob rule.
The mob rule. That's it. Gotcha. The mob rule. I like this team. Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, two locked and loaded, top 10 receivers. I like the running backs with Saquon Barkley and Leonard Fournette. Behind those guys, they both have injury concerns of themselves. So, you got to hope both those guys stay healthy. But Terry McLaurin in the 5th, Trey Lance, who I'm uber confident is going to be the starter as your first quarterback. Then we talked about it earlier. Jameis Winston's getting him late with Jared Goff, who's going to be the starter all year. I think this is a really good team. I like that team.
Wyatt, is there a team that stands out to you?
I do think the mob rule has a really good team. Jay Wall sticks out a little bit for me because I really like the way he started with Kupp, Stafford, Rodgers, Hill.
Yeah, but then he lost it, right?
Like
round 5.
Yeah, it started to drop off a little bit after that for me because I'm not a Cam Akers guy. So if you like Cam Akers, you probably really like Jay Wall's team.
Yeah, I like Jay Wall's team for sure.
I like Jay Wall's first 4 rounds. Why? That's exactly my thought. I was sitting there going, but I can't pick Jay Wall because it falls apart after that.
I think Cam Akers belongs there, though. Like, just look at the running backs after. I mean, J.K. Dobbins. We said we like him more, but I'll direct Cam Akers above the other guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll take Elijah Mitchell ahead of Cam Akers as well.
That's fine. That's fine.
Agreed there. Big Elijah Mitchell guy over here.
Yeah.
Me too. The team that stuck out to me, I actually really like Gary's team. Starting Jalen Hurts, but then grabbing Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, both seem like values at running back. And then this wide receiver core for not taking a running back or a wide receiver to the fourth round. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Marquise Brown is a sexy wide receiver core whenever you started 4 rounds in drafting those guys. The biggest blind spot on this team for me is that QB2. You're just hoping Fields or Jones steps up, and I think Fields will, but there's a risk factor there, right? So Gary's team is probably the one that stands out to me.
I just realized the mob rule did not draft a tight end, which is a little concerning though, just like thinking about. But yeah, there's other guys. So grab multiple late.
If there's a position to not draft, I think it's
you're totally. If you miss out, then you can just drop someone and pick up CJ Uzama before the first week of the season, and you'll be fine.
Real fast, Jalen Hurts though with the 106. Gary picked Jalen Hurts with the 106. A little early for me, but like really only Kyler Murray for sure. Joe Burrow, I would. But I guess it's not that crazy. A little early for me.
He's a QB1, like for sure. And I've seen him ranked as high as 5, and with the rushing upside that he has, I see no harm in taking him that high. I wouldn't. He's my QB9, but he's got that kind of
quarterback
upside.
6. So I don't know what I'm complaining about. Never mind. I digress.
I think I have him at 8. Yeah, I have him at QB 8 personally. So I've got Murray, Burrow, and Prescott ahead of him.
Yeah. So I probably would have taken maybe McCaffrey there or Eckler with that spot that Gary drafted right there and then passed on QB. I like the way this team shaped up. And I think with the other quarterbacks he drafted, it works having Jalen Hurts right there. Yeah. Guys, that is going to be it for our mock draft this week. Wyatt, thank you so much for coming and drafting with us, my man. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. Hope we can do it again sometime when I'm
we're gonna have to bring you back. We're gonna have to bring you back to play one of our competitive games. Now that we've come on here and it's been nothing but just hanging out, being nice. We'll have to bring you back where from the start it creates enemies out of people. We'll be fighting head to head.
I like it.
Excited for that, guys. If you do not already follow Wyatt on Twitter, go and follow him right now. You can find him on Twitter at WyattB_FF. It is right there below his beautiful bearded face. So make sure you guys go follow him over there. We will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time for some more fantasy football game show fun. Until then, though, we are out of here. Adios, everybody.
Trading makes fantasy fun.
I thought you almost forgot.